Yay! It's on to the NFC East, which means these team-by-team previews are almost done. Thank God. Anyways, let's move on. The Washington Redskins. This is an organization that, ever since Daniel Snyder bought the team, in general, I think a lot of people would agree, has not been an incredibly well-run organization. All of the massive bust in free agency over the years, some years of poor drafting, a head coaching carousel that is only rivaled by a few organizations, Cleveland being one of them. Just a lot of bad things. But it was interesting in 2012 when they made the big deal to go up and get RG3. They were getting a lot of praise for that, a lot of recognition for that. Well, it was a big price to pay, but RG3 could be that guy and answer so many issues for the Washington Redskins. And if it ultimately pays out, it doesn't matter the price they paid. But yet when they took Kirk Cousins in the 4th round, that pick was panned quite a bit. Why, when you had to give up so much to move up from 6 to 2 to get RG3 to begin with, would you then turn around and take another quarterback in the 4th round, knowing for all intents and purposes that if things pan out with RG3, you basically sunk a 4th round pick into a quarterback that's never really going to play for you. So RG3 pick, praised a lot. Kirk Cousins pick, panned a lot. Now, several years later, it's weird and funny and ironic how things ultimately played out. RG3 doesn't even have an NFL job. Kirk Cousins is wanting to get paid like a franchise quarterback. And for the Washington Redskins the past 2 years, for all intents and purposes, he has been that guy. Now, I understand that you look at a Kirk Cousins, thinking about him as a former 4th round pick. Maybe some of it is kind of the malaise and hangover from the bust that was RG3. And thinking about it from an organizational standpoint and saying, is Kirk Cousins really that guy? Is he that type of guy that you really feel like you can win big games with and could take you to a championship? I understand that some people look at him and say he's not that guy. And I don't know that he is that guy either. But what I do know is that Kirk Cousins is an NFL quarterback and not a particularly bad one either. And with 2 years of very productive performance under his belt, the time has come for the Washington Redskins to make the right decision and keep this guy in the fold long term, because you don't have another option currently in the organization, and there's no guarantee that if you went out and drafted a guy that you would get it right either, or a free agency that you would definitely get it right either. So, of course, the Redskins in this offseason, where it should have been all about stability and firming things out and kind of cementing the path in the future of the organization, you ultimately have to let go of the general manager, Scott McCloughan, because he's a fucking drunk who couldn't handle himself and control himself. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Sympathy my ass. You had this opportunity and you frickin' blew it. And then, of course, that means Bruce Allen is running the show, and Redskins fans that live around me here in Richmond and throughout the RVA area, the DMV area, frankly, if you want to go there, know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about how scary of a proposition that is and how much dread that brings to everybody. So, of course, this Kirk Cousins contract situation was allowed to ultimately fester, and he's not re-signed long-term. You're on another one-year franchise tag type of deal, which means that the Washington Redskins, come as a team coming off of a playoff appearance in 2015 and being a Week 17 win away against the Giants in Week 17 last year from making it back-to-back playoff appearances, now goes into this season with just as much uncertainty as ever before. Who's going to be the general manager long-term? It seems like Jay Gruden is pretty safe in his role at this point in time, but who's going to be the quarterback long-term? And I just wonder if now is going to be that time where these chickens kind of come home to roost and this kind of manifests itself in not a very good way in 2017. When you look at the offseason, you allow Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon to go in free agency for cap reasons. You were able to get Terrell Pryor in on a one-year deal. Nothing wrong with that. But you're talking about trying to make a decision long-term about Kirk Cousins and whether or not he's the guy. And it's like you're doing little things to try and sabotage him along the way. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But it is what it is. Now, I did think that the Redskins had a really, really strong performance in the 2017 draft. Getting Jonathan Allen to fall to him where he did all the way at 17 was a godsend for them. I expect him to be a stud and a difference maker on the defensive front. Ryan Anderson in the second round, the linebacker from Alabama. I think he's going to contribute some as a rookie outside, and maybe eventually they might even flip him inside where he could end up being a decent starter for them. Samaje Perine is going to get some carries this year, I'm sure, especially with Matt Jones being shown the door. He'll be a backup behind Rob Kelly, Chris Thompson, and how long is it going to be before Perine gets his chance to be that lead back? So I thought the Redskins acquitted themselves well in the draft, and I thought the Terrell Pryor signing was very, very good. Letting both Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon go, I don't know about that. But when you look at this team, what are the strengths? Kirk Cousins is a legit NFL starting quarterback. He's not elite, and I don't think a lot of people would look at him and say, Kirk Cousins is the type of guy that I would want to build my franchise around, but you got to kind of say he kind of sort of is now a franchise quarterback. We've labeled guys that have done less with bigger labels than what Kirk Cousins gets. I mean, he's an adequate, capable NFL starting quarterback that can win some games. And you can win some games because of, not just with. So the Redskins have a built-in advantage over at least half of the NFL. Then you look at other areas of their offense, assuming Jordan Reed is healthy, and that's always a big assumption, you still have some nice weapons in the passing game. You have Jordan Reed. You have a Terrell Pryor. You have a Jamison Crowder. If you could get Josh Doxson again to stay healthy, which is asking a lot apparently, you still should have the ability to throw in Chris Thompson out of the backfield to be able to move the ball consistently in the air. Maybe not quite as effectively as last year, but still effectively enough. You've got an adequate offensive line with the bookend tackles and Trent Williams and Morgan Moses. You've got Brandon Scherf on the inside. They've got good pieces on the offensive side of the ball. But I still have questions about whether or not they're going to be able to consistently run the ball. I think their backfield situation is better than it has been over the past couple of years, but I still don't know if it's good enough. And the point I'm getting at is that they have to be able to balance out their offense better with Kirk Cousins, because sometimes they put him in a situation where he has to throw the ball too much and you have to take too many chances, and that's when you can start getting into trouble. And just in general, when a defense can know 80% of the time what you're going to do, it's a lot easier to defend. Defensively, I still think they have some issues at all three levels. You've got Trent Murphy was already suspended the first 4 games for steroids, and then he blows out his ACL in training camp, so he's gone for the year. What's Preston Smith going to do as the edge rusher opposite Ryan Kerrigan? Is that going to mean Ryan Anderson gets more opportunity? You've been waiting for Junior Gillette to do something. He's been out the past couple of years due to injury. Is he going to be NFL caliber edge rusher anymore? Remains to be seen. How's that secondary going to look with Josh Norman and everybody else around him, because that was a big problem at times in 2017. A lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball, and then also with this team's ability to run the football. In terms of X factors or players to watch offensively, I will go with Josh Doxson, and I will also go with the running backs, because somebody out of that backfield's got to step up and be a reliable hand. Is it Kelly? Is it Perine? We'll find out, but one of them needs to be if the Redskins want to be back in the playoff hunt again this year. And Doxson, their first-round pick for 2016, a guy I liked a lot coming out of TCU. The bottom line is he's got to be able to stay healthy. He's got to be able to actually make the football field and play in some games. And if he can be, he's a very talented kid. And I think him and Terrell Pryor can be a nice 1-2 combination on the outside. But he's got to be able to actually get on the field first. Defensively, in terms of X factors, I look at guys like Junior Gillette and Ryan Anderson. They need somebody to bring an outside pass rush opposite Ryan Kerrigan from the linebacker position. So I'll be looking at those two guys, because I still feel like their secondary, even if Kendall Fuller improves in year 2, even if Fabian Moreau, their third-round pick from UCLA, is able to contribute some in year number 1, I still have concerns about the secondary's ability to hold up on a consistent basis. When I look at this organization, though, and I look at this team this year, it just feels like they're in a bad spot. The past couple of off seasons, they've devoted a lot of energy to ultimately finding excuses to not commit to Kirk Cousins long term. And it almost seems like the Washington Redskins are trying to create their own reality where he isn't their long-term answer. Now, this all could be water under the bridge in a year, and Kirk Cousins could get a 5-year contract where he's the when he signs the deal, the highest paid quarterback in the league. That could happen. But man, oh man, it feels like with some of the good things the Redskins have been doing the past couple of years and at least being viable, relevant, and competitive, it feels like the Daniel Snyder, Bruce Allen effect on an organization is just waiting to creep back in. I do not get a great vibe from this team this year, even though I do think they're going to be a little bit improved defensively. I think they might take a step back offensively. I don't know if they're going to be able to consistently run the football. In a division that I think is as strong as any in the league, which is the NFC East, which is funny because a couple of years ago I was calling them the NFC least because that's exactly what the hell they were. I think the Redskins could be in a situation, in a place where they're a solid, decent team and may still only win 6 football games, maybe 7. I just, so much doubt about what's happening with Kirk Cousins in the future. I wonder if it's going to end up dividing the locker room. Is it going to be a distraction to Kirk Cousins? Is it going to be a distraction to the coaching staff? Is it just going to be a distraction to the team? Are they going to get bit by the injury bug? Are they going to miss not having guys like both Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon? There's a lot of questions for me to really get behind the Redskins this year. I just don't get a great vibe from the organization. I think they're going to finish last in the NFC East.